Hey guys, we just wanted to give you a quick production update before we get going on the end of the year awards. As some of you may or may not know, the wonderful producer Amanda is a film student at Emerson College, and one of the things she has to do before she can graduate is make a thesis film, which is like a thesis paper, but it's a movie. And the production of that is going to start next month. So I am here to announce that Ed Reviews will be taking about a 3-month long hiatus on reviews. For the 3 months that she is in production for this movie, I decided to spare her from having to work on any Ed Reviews content. She needs 100% focus on her thesis film. So for 3 months, just about, we will not be reviewing anything. But that doesn't mean that this glorious face is going away. As some of you who follow us on Instagram at EJK Reviews may know, I have started doing what I'm calling video quick thoughts on movies and games that I'm playing, which are basically I record my kind of initial reactions to movies and games that I'm playing, and I also share that on my Twitter, on our Twitter account at EJK Reviews, also on Twitter. So I'll be there posting those, and junior consultant Mike Adams and I were talking when I told him about this hiatus, and we did say that we may be around to podcast a little bit if there's something to talk about, because we said between the two of us we can absolutely edit that without Amanda. And yeah, so this is the announcement of our 3-month hiatus. Included in the link below will be the Instagram account and Facebook page for Amanda's thesis film, which is called A Frosted Lens. We encourage you to go follow that and keep up on production. Also included in the description will be a link to her Indiegogo page. There's about 16 days as of when we're recording this video left. So there will be less when this video actually goes up on New Year's. But if you have any money, please donate to help our wonderful producer make this movie. Speaking from my own experience, I did. I'm not ashamed to admit it. Friends helping friends and all that. And I am actually going to be helping on the production of that when she's down here in Connecticut for it. We wish Amanda the best, and we hope you enjoy the end of the year awards video. So 2018 is coming to a close, and we're going to talk about the things that I personally, me and the staff, Amanda and Mike both had some input in this. These are our opinions. We do not claim to be all-powerful, all-knowing people. We're college students. We like what we like, but we're going to jump into it. So we're going to start with our honorable mention for Artist of the Year, which is a band that I recently discovered this year called The Score. Their album Atlas came out in 2017, and they were the openers on Echo Smith's Inside a Dream tour at the beginning of this year. I saw them live there. They are phenomenal to see. What I love about their music is its ability to be definitely like an alt-rock sound, but still have incredibly positive, uplifting music. It's like, I don't mean this in a bad way, but the music of The Score sounds the most like cliche sports music you see at the beginning of a montage, where it's about like overcoming adversity and positive things like that. They are awesome. Definitely check them out if you get the chance. Our 2018 Artist of the Year, and if you know me personally, this shouldn't be a surprise to you at all, is Taylor Swift. What didn't she do this year? Reputation came out at the end of last year. That was her 2017 album of the year. And the Reputation Stadium tour began, I think it was the beginning of May. I don't recall exactly when the date started, and wrapped up in the middle of November. She broke her own record for highest grossing female stadium tour in the US. She broke the highest grossing stadium tour in North America record. She broke several records she owned herself. She swept at the American Music Awards. She got 3 awards at the Billboard Music Awards. And just in general, everything she did this year, whether it was musically or whether it was as a philanthropist or as a political advocate, worked wonderful. A lot of people criticized her for using her voice in the 2018 midterms, but it was a well-calculated, well-received message of vote for who you care about, which I gained even more respect for her through that. As someone in the Swiftie community, this era, while she may have been distant and trying to maintain a personal life, she's never... I've talked to people, they've never felt closer to her until this era. So many people I've met I talked to on Twitter met her this era, and there are so many wonderful stories that she acknowledges, and she lets people meet her for free. You don't pay to meet Taylor Swift at her concerts. She just picks you. I can't think of an artist who had a better year than Taylor Swift did this year. And now for our 2018 Album of the Year. I'm going to admit flat out, I probably didn't buy an album you liked this year. These are the albums that I purchased and I particularly really enjoyed. First off in our honorable mentions is Camila Cabello's debut album, Camila. I have been thoroughly impressed with her ever since she went solo and left Fifth Harmony. What gets me, and I talked a little bit about this when she was a runner-up for Artist of the Year last year, what gets me about Camila is how much power there is in her natural singing voice. Listen to specifically the song Consequences, either the orchestra version or the original version. The original definitely, it's not better, but it does a better job of showing her voice, because that song is just her and a piano. And I heard it live at the Foxborough Reputation Stadium tour stop because she was one of the openers. And there's so much power in her voice that I just absolutely adore. Our next runner-up is Philip Phillips' new album, Collateral. I love this album for the most part. There's definitely a few songs I don't like as much as others, but it is some of Philip Phillips' absolute best music. I recommend you go listen to the song Dance With Me. I talked about it in last year's End of the Year Award, so I won't talk about it again. But Collateral is a really well done album. I love his style of music because it's this interesting mix of like country music, folk, and kind of a rock feel to it. And he is wonderful. Our next honorable mention is Cinematic, Owl City's new album. I mean, I kind of said this in our End of the Year podcast that I did with junior consultant Mike Adams, but you either love Owl City or you don't get Owl City. The thing about him is, yeah, the songs are really weird. He wrote a song about Fiji water. But if you listen to his interviews and you listen to him talk, while his music is like really quirky, which I love that, even though I do love artists evolving, Owl City has stayed true to that quirky nature that makes him so unique. And nowhere is that more on display than Cinematic. Fiji Water, it's a song about bottled water, but it's also like a really deep song about his him telling the story of when he first went to New York to get a record contract. And the song The 5th of July is another one that I adore, which is a song he wrote after interviewing his parents about his own birth. It's a song about his own birth, which I guess is a little meta if you think about it. But what I really love is just how interesting it is. I love that song. I love Owl City. And now, the winner of our 2018 Album of the Year is the soundtrack from Anna and the Apocalypse. I'm going to be talking about Anna and the Apocalypse a lot throughout this whole awards piece that we're doing, so I will spare you a little bit here, but the music in that movie is phenomenal. Go listen to Soldier at War, Breakaway, Turning My Life Around, or Hollywood Ending, and you'll see what I'm talking about. It's such a good album, such a good soundtrack, and even if you don't necessarily see the movie, I think you can appreciate the music from this film. And the next genre that we'll be talking about is video games. What a good year for gaming, especially on the PlayStation 4 we had this year. There were so many incredibly passionate, well-designed games over the course of this year. Everything I'm about to list is phenomenal in its own right, and I'll get to why my game of the year is my game of the year once we get there. But we're going to start with our runner-ups after I itch my nose. This Eddie Nose Scratch is brought to you in part by A Frosted Lens, a BFA thesis film. Donate, please. Our first honorable mention for Game of the Year is God of War. God of War is a masterpiece. I will never say that it is not. The way Cory Barlog managed to not reboot God of War, but acknowledge that we're in a different era of gaming where, well, yes, the old brutal, gory God of War games are fantastic in their own right. We want more slow, intelligent stories. The way he managed to acknowledge that and make God of War an incredibly emotional journey on top of a mechanically sound slasher game was beyond impressive. It really is one of the best games of the year and one of the best games on PlayStation. Our next honorable mention is Super Smash Bros. Ultimate on the Nintendo Switch. A phenomenal, incredibly mechanically sound fighter game that has enough for a casual Smash player like me or more advanced pro Smash players like junior consultant Mike Adams. And our 2018 Game of the Year goes to Detroit Become Human. What can I say that I haven't said in my review of this game? I know choice-based gaming isn't for everyone. Some people have argued, I want more mechanics in my gameplay. But I challenge them to go look at how incredibly detailed of a world Detroit Become Human exists in. The way that David Cage and everyone at Quantic Dream managed to create this immersive, realistic feeling world where, we could have robots in 20 years. Who knows? The way they managed to create that world and make it feel real, whether it was the visuals, the attention to detail of you can pick up magazines in the game and read about what's going on in the rest of the world outside of Detroit. It was phenomenal. And one thing that I feel isn't talked about enough in that game, as you may or may not know, you play as 3 different main characters over the course of the game with 3 different stories. They cross paths at points, but for the most part, they're their own independent stories. David Cage decided to have 3 separate composers each compose the music from one of the main characters. I'm blanking on their names currently, but there is a different composer for Connor, Kara, and Marcus, and each composer took a different turn with their music, their different styles to portray these different characters' arcs. And it was just little bits of attention to detail like that that made Detroit Become Human not only one of my favorite games of 2018, but easily one of, if not my all-time favorite video game. And the next genre is television. Now, full disclosure, I didn't watch a ton of TV this year. Most of the shows I really enjoyed kind of finished at the beginning of the year and aren't coming back until the beginning of next year. So with that in mind, let's jump into it. And after this nose itch, this Eddie Nose Scratch is brought to you in part by A Frosted Lens, a BFA thesis film. And our first category in the television genre is our TV Actress of the Year. And I don't have any runner-ups, so our 2018 TV Actress of the Year is Amy Forsyth in the show Rise. Now, if you saw my editorial on Rise, you know that I'm not a big fan of this show. I think that narratively it had a ton of problems. The plots were there were way too many subplots, and it really didn't know exactly what it wanted to be as shows go. But the one person, the one character, and the one actress who really sold me on that show was Amy Forsyth as Gwen. I don't know what it is about this character, but the way Gwen is, she begins the show as kind of the stuck-up prima donna theater kid who is a little mean, I guess, because she did not get the lead role in the New School musical that Josh Rander's character is directing. And you kind of hear this throughout the show. She's kind of played up to be the bully, almost like, think kind of Sharpay Evans in High School Musical, but if they gave her like a reason to be that mean. As you go on in the show, you find out that her parents are divorcing because the dad's a chronic cheater, and it really humanizes her in the way that Forsyth can make you feel for this relatively mean person. I was astounded for. And one thing in particular that I think anybody should go look up if they can find it, off the NBC Rise soundtrack, is Amy Forsyth's cover of the Song of Purple Summer. I do not remember what episode it's from off the top of my head, but it is incredible. It was one of the most emotional scenes in that TV show, and Amy Forsyth is an incredible singer. And now on to our 2018 TV Actor of the Year, and that is going to go to Ben McKenzie as James Gordon in Gotham. I love Gotham. Ben McKenzie, through the whole TV show as James Gordon, has absolutely astounded me. He crushes that role, and through the end of season 4, he was absolutely phenomenal. And our 2018 Best TV Show of the Year goes to, big shock, the second half of season 4 of Gotham. As you guys know, I gave the second half of season 3 and the beginning of season 4 of Gotham my 2017 TV Show of the Year. And while Gotham only had its conclusion this year, it was some of the best television I've watched all year. This show amazes me because they managed to tell a Batman story where, even though this season Bruce started doing a little bit of what I'm calling baby Batmaning, they managed to tell a incredible story in that universe without Batman really being there. And now on to our next genre, which is movies, a category that producer Amanda and I both love to talk about. And we're going to start with our 2018 Actress of the Year. And again, we're going to start with our honorable mentions. My first honorable mention in this is Alicia Vikander as Lara Croft in Tomb Raider. Now, Tomb Raider itself is not the best of movies. I enjoyed it, but it's the same reason I personally enjoy the Tomb Raider games. They're fun, silly action games. They're nothing to be taken all that seriously. And the reason that Alicia Vikander is getting an honorable mention in this is solely because I read this. Alicia Vikander insisted on training to do all of the stunts for Tomb Raider herself. And you can tell that she got in shape and was incredibly committed to doing the insane things that were required in this role. I thoroughly enjoyed her in that movie. Our next honorable mention is Jennifer Lawrence in Red Sparrow. Red Sparrow, to me, is an incredibly good, difficult to watch movie. For those of you who don't know, Red Sparrow is a film about modern day spies in Russia and the US. And Jennifer Lawrence plays a Russian ballerina turned sex spy is the best way I'll describe it. I don't remember the word that they use, but the Russian government trains attractive men and women in this story. I don't think it is true, even though it's based on a book written by ex-CIA. The Russian government in this story trains beautiful Russian men and women in the art of seduction to extract information from enemies of the state. And through some not convoluted, but through some tragic events happening to Jennifer Lawrence's character, she ends up in this spy school and becoming a sparrow, as they're called. And that role looked like it was absolutely brutal. Obviously, effects exist, and I'm sure a lot of things were CGI. But the amount of pain she had to go to one, do the ballet sequences herself, and two, I imagine that most of the torture sequences were probably practical. It was an incredibly fearless role. Our next honorable mention is Dakota Johnson in Bad Times at the El Royale. I don't want to give away her arc, or really any of the Bad Times at the El Royale characters' arcs, because it gives away that story, and I think the best way to first experience Bad Times at the El Royale is to know as little going in. But Dakota Johnson crushed it in that role. I honestly didn't know she could act, because all I knew that she was in was the 50 Shades of Grey movies, and I heard nothing but awful things about those. And our 2018 Actress of the Year goes to Ella Hunt in Anna and the Apocalypse. I was captivated by her role as Anna in this movie. The character of Anna could so easily fall apart because the reality is, and this is a little bit of, I guess, spoilers, the reality of Anna, of the story of Anna and the Apocalypse, is everything that Anna is going through before the apocalypse begins is typical, probably a little bit excess sad high schooler drama. But the way that Ella Hunt managed to make you feel for her as this character who lost her mother, had boy troubles, but lost her mother and is disappointing her father, even though she knows what she wants to do and wants to be. She was astounding. And two other things. My God, can she sing? She has a phenomenal singing voice. And her action sequences, especially with, as you can see, I'm rocking the Anna and the Apocalypse t-shirt. The cane with the shiv is such a badass weapon, and her fight sequences are so cool. And now on to our 2018 Actor of the Year. Our first honorable mention is Joel Edgerton in Red Sparrow. You can pretty much take everything I said about Jennifer Lawrence in the Actress of the Year, and it's the same thing with Joel Edgerton. He plays an American spy, and there's certain scenes that I know they did not do those things to him, but the torture sequences are so brutal in that movie that you have to give them credit for being able to act as well as they did. I love Joel Edgerton in this. And our next honorable mention is Ewan McGregor in Christopher Robin. Christopher Robin is a genuinely, surprisingly fantastic film. A lot of people had skepticism going in. But among other things, the way McGregor managed to play grown-up Christopher Robin was incredible, because I didn't see Ewan McGregor. I saw an adult version of this imaginative kid. He was outstanding. Our next honorable mention is Chadwick Boseman in Black Panther and Avengers Infinity War. I love Black Panther, and at the helm of that was Chadwick Boseman, who is an incredible actor. Go watch Black Panther if you haven't seen it. It is the least Marvel movie, but Boseman was incredible in that role. Our next honorable mention is Malcolm Cumming in Anna and the Apocalypse. As you may remember from the review, I love John as a character because John is me and I am John. Malcolm Cumming is incredibly charming in that role. And again, fantastic singing voice. And he plays the lovable dork incredibly well. And our 2018 Actor of the Year is Jeff Bridges in Bad Times at the El Royale. In a movie with such an incredible cast, Jeff Bridges, I think, is the standout in that movie, because I would argue that his arc is the most difficult to portray properly. Without giving everything away, he essentially has 3 roles because of the 3, I'll just say, different personalities that come with his character. And the amount of versatility he had to show to get that role done properly astounded me beyond belief. And now we have a returning category of ours that Amanda and I both particularly love, our Best Animated Character of the Year. So whether it was CG or just an animated character from a kid's movie, these are our runners-up and then our winner. Our first runner-up is Jack Jack in Incredibles 2. Some of the most creative uses of that character I've ever seen. The way that they have his powers just kind of showing up and going up. It's creative. It's funny. The sequences are out of this world where Jack Jack has to use his powers. And he was just a ton of fun to watch in Incredibles 2. Our next runner-up is Pooh in Christopher Robin. That movie is just so delightful. And Pooh, while some people said he looked kind of creepy in that movie, I think he was adorable. And having the original voice of Winnie the Pooh come back to do it again was a great choice. Pooh was a delight to watch. And our final runner-up for Best Animated Film of the Year is Thanos, everyone's favorite purple geologist. And the winner of the Best Animated Character of 2018 is Gorb in Ralph Breaks the Internet. He was weird, but the design was creative. He was something out of like a mix of just adorableness and creepypasta. I love Gorb. Junior consultant Mike Adam loved Gorb. He's wonderful. Now we've reached the pinnacle of the film category, and that is our 2018 Best Film of the Year. First, let's start with our runner-ups. First off is I, Tonya, which I'm counting as a 2018 film, even though some theaters got it in 2017. It was another festival movie that got its wider release in 2018. I, Tonya, if you didn't see my review, I think is my favorite sports movie of all time. The way it managed to tell this insane, true story with humor, some intelligent commentary, and just absurdism was incredibly awesome to watch. Margot Robbie crushed it as Tonya Harding. Go see that movie if you haven't had a chance yet. And our second honorable mention is the film that I was convinced was going to wrap up the Best Film of the Year. It is my favorite big budget movie from this year, and that is Bad Times at the El Royale. Now, we did not have a chance to review Bad Times at the El Royale here on the channel because Amanda and I were both busy. So I will give a little bit more of deep thoughts into this movie without giving anything away. I have never seen anything like Bad Times at the El Royale. Its ability to be unpredictable is what sold me the most on it. I think that the best way to experience that movie if you know as little as possible. So if someone's seen it that you know, don't ask them what happens in it. Just go see it for yourself and experience one hell of a ride. And our 2018 best film of the year goes to Big Shock, Anna and the Apocalypse. Again, repping the shirt. I have never in my life seen such a passionate, funny, heartfelt film. Link to the review will probably be in the description below. It was one of our most recent reviews as well. Again, this is another film that technically started its life in 2017 as a festival film, but its UK and US wide releases were this year, so we counted it as a 2018 film. Everyone involved in that story was so committed to making that crazy idea work. And I cannot give it enough credit for how incredibly funny and heartfelt of a film it was. Go see it. And now we're on to our miscellaneous categories once again, which are categories that we liked from last year and they don't really fit anywhere in particular. And we're going to lead it off with our biggest disappointment of 2018. These are films that myself, junior consultant Mike Adams, and producer Amanda, for the most part, we're all pretty disappointed with. And we're going to start again with our runners-up. And first off is Ralph Breaks the Internet, the sequel to the first Wreck-It Ralph. Now, junior consultant Mike Adams and I went in depth with our problems on this in our Initial Thoughts podcast, which you can easily find on the channel. So I won't go too deep into it, but it was a fine kids movie, but it failed to really understand what was so special about Ralph and Vanellope in the original Wreck-It Ralph. And I was definitely disappointed in the sequel to one of my favorite Disney movies. Our next honorable mention is the Freddie Mercury biopic, Bohemian Rhapsody. A film that I was pretty interested in. I think producer Amanda was pretty interested in too. But we definitely both, and not rarely do Amanda and I have essentially the same thoughts, but I was genuinely surprised with just how similar producer Amanda and I's thoughts were on this movie. We both said that, for one thing, certain elements, while it is an intriguing story, certain elements of that plot are incredibly rushed. And I think Amanda put it best when she texted me and said, certain scenes in that movie just happen. It's like they start and then they're done. Like there's no meat, there's no substance to it. And I personally found that the decision to have Rami Malek lip sync to original recordings of songs by Queen was a horrible decision, because I caught it about 20 minutes into the movie that he was lip syncing. And through the whole rest of it, no matter how great he was when he's talking, Malek failed to sell that he was the one singing and it wasn't just recordings of Freddie Mercury's voice. And our next honorable mention is Hellfest, which we reviewed, and I personally enjoyed. I definitely think that it was a fun movie to watch, but what sold me on Hellfest was its concept of, here's a murderer in a scary park, in a horror park where everyone is essentially supposed to be pretending they're a murderer. I thought that some of the scares could get a little more creative, but it ended up being just I heard it compared to a 90s slasher film a lot, which I agree with. And certain shots in that movie are really interesting. I think Amy Forsyth was incredible in that film, but I definitely was disappointed with where it could have been. And the winner of the biggest disappointment of 2018 is Mary Poppins Returns, Now that review, I believe, is actually going to go up today that we're filming it. So just if you haven't seen that review yet, here is my kind of quick thoughts. As its own independent movie, if you separate it from the original Mary Poppins, it is pretty good. It is a really the choreography is impressive, and for the most part, the music is really good. But if you are like me and really love the original story of Mary Poppins, it fails to capture what makes the original such a magical, incredible, and incredibly intelligent story. And now, to close it off, we have our stupidest thing of 2018. There's no runners-up. I think you all know what this is. It's Sharknado 6, a film that I'm blaming you guys for having me watch, because I left it to a poll on Twitter saying, if I hate Sharknado, you know I hate Sharknado, but if you guys want, I'll watch Sharknado 6 and review it. And you guys said yes, and I watched it. And it was dumb and insulting and ridiculous. And my God, I hope that sci-fi means it when they say that this is the last time that we're ever going to have a Sharknado movie. From all of us here at Ed Reviews, we want to thank you from the bottom of our hearts for an incredibly great year. Our content was a little bit more scattered this year than last, but we thank everyone who stuck around and continued to help us grow as a channel. I personally, want to, as always, thank my incredible producer behind the camera, Amanda Murphy. She's waving to no one but me. But I genuinely appreciate the hard work that she put in this year. I said it last year, but I'll say it again. She takes this stuttering mess and makes it look good. And again, I'm looking at her now. I want to wish you the best of luck on A Frosted Lens. I look forward to working under you in that production. And yeah, best of luck with that. I want to thank junior consultant Mike Adams for the incredible job he did on the podcasts with us. And I want to thank him for helping with content. I think, Amanda, you would agree that he genuinely does help with some neat ideas and facilitating new ideas for us to play with. And I want to thank you guys, the viewers, for, again, like I said, sticking around with us and continuing to support us as we continue this venture. Have a safe and happy new year, and here's to 2019.